Shouldn't be that long, I hope.
Is no one else coming?
They didn't vote for it, so I guess not.
Hmm.
Anyway. Okay. Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to Smudcast number 452, How Watchmen Ruined Superhero Comics. Now, in case you don't know, we did cover a Watchmen video a few days ago from ER. That was a really fun video to watch. Very talented YouTuber who knows his video editing and comedy. And this is by, let's see, this is by Just Some Guy. Came out 4 years ago, August. How Watchmen Ruined Superhero Comics. Interesting topic because I don't think it did. Watchmen was sort of an adult take on, I guess you could say, the 60s or the 70s style of superhero comics, and I don't know.
Yeah, Civil Age. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what it was lampooning or what it was making fun of, because I know Alan Moore didn't have the greatest relationship with pretty much anyone in like Marvel or DC world. So him attacking, I don't know, Spider-Man or Stan Lee is like, okay, yeah, whatever, sure, it's possible. I'm sure he's doing that in some capacity. So I'm not sure it's exactly destroying the genre, because when you look at Marvel comics, Marvel people loved reading because the characters were realistic. They came across as more believable than the gods of the DC world. Now, with Watchmen, it's just the same style, same idea, just in a much more adult and darker side of humanity. So you can look at each of the heroes and you can say, oh, this guy would just be like, I wouldn't say the Punisher, but you know, the comedian's kind of like the action hero of the 80s, I guess, or the big tough guy with guns, and they have to fit him into, if he was a superhero, okay, he can't use real bullets, he's using rubber bullets. It's like, all right, okay. So it's bringing a more realistic take on the superheroes of that era, I would argue. And it works in that capacity. So I wouldn't say it destroyed or ruined comic books of the 70s or even the 80s. It was just taking that style and telling a more adult story. And it does more than just that. It's a lot of other things because Alan Moore is a good writer. So it's telling a lot of other stories and a lot of other concepts. And it plays around with, you know, like the God character, the smartest dude character, like the Batman character. It plays around with the Owlman, I think? He was just your generic dude helping people.
Night Owl, yeah.
Night Owl?
Oh, Night Owl.
Yes.
Owlman is in the opposite to Batman. Sorry.
Yes, the DC world, you're right. Sorry.
Yeah. There's a lot of owls.
Well, yeah. That's kind of the thing, because originally we know that the Watchmen was supposed to be of those characters from DC, and Alan Moore had to change it. So interesting stuff. But I want to find out how exactly Watchmen ruined superhero comics in general, because I don't think it did literally. Because comics.
I'll be honest. If it just turns into, it made comics all want to be dark and gritty, no, this is a stupid argument.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case, because Frank Miller was doing that in the early 80s as well, so that's not a big deal. And people love Frank Miller, so it's the 80s and 90s were pretty big for comics too. So I don't.
Don't you find it funny that Frank Miller and Alan Moore, who both did really gritty comic book takes of superheroes, are both absolutely fucking insane now?
What happened to Frank Miller? I haven't heard the stories.
Frank Miller, have you read any of his other comic books after The Dark Knight Returns?
I probably have, aside from
Frank Miller pretty much went crazy after 9/11. Like it crushed him so much that like he just kept writing the kind of stories that like it's just Batman like on extremes, steroids.
Oh yeah, like
he made Batman into Mary Sue pretty much.
Oh.
Yeah, was it All-Star Batman and Robin, the Boy Wonder?
Oh.
Just read that comic. That is just one of the worst things ever written. Batman tortures Robin and tells him to eat rats, and then he has sex with Black Canary, but they have to keep the masks on because it's kinkier. He rams into police cars and murders people. And he calls Green Lantern a faggot.
Well, he's done so much work. I mostly know him about his Daredevil stuff. I don't know what. Like, Daredevil's a pretty awesome character, so I don't know what he could have done to him to ruin him. But that was Dark City, or what the hell is that?
Sin City.
Sin City. There you go. That's a pretty well-known comic.
300.
Oh yeah. There's certain stuff he's done well, but recently he's just turned insane. Like what Mark says, it's like 9/11 has really changed him.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
But oh my god, I mean, it's just it. I always remember he writes about the Joker, and the Joker doesn't laugh, and the Joker murders a woman who he's seduced at a bar somehow. I don't know, and then is literally like got to cover up the body to that woman with the Nazi tattoos on her tits, and it's like, what the fuck's going on? And you're like, right, okay, I don't know. I don't know what's happening here.
Right. Well, okay. I haven't heard any specific story where he's like bashing the fans of comic books or anything that Alan Moore has done.
Frank Miller doesn't do that, but like he just has these crazy stories, pretty much.
Yeah, it's just you look at it and you think, man, that guy is like either off his head on something or is just naturally insane. So,
all right. Anyway, let's get going. This is a 11-minute video. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm. It's hailed as one of the greatest comic book stories ever written. It completely reshaped the superhero landscape. It revolutionized the comic book medium. It ushered in the modern era of superhero books. And it probably ruined the superhero genre forever.
The point Everton. It will never be undone. It will never go away.
It's Watchmen, the masterpiece maxi-series written by Alan Moore and drawn by Dave Gibbons. To say that this is a must-read comic doesn't do the book justice. If you're a comic book fan, a fan of literature, or someone who just loves good storytelling, you need to read this book. Watchmen tells a story of a group of heroes who have to solve the murder of one of their own. It sounds like a typical whodunit story, but that's just a plot device to get to the real story. What if the heroes weren't so heroic? It's not that this story has never been told before. It's not that it's never been told with superheroes before. It's the way Moore and Gibbons deconstruct the superhero mythos bit by bit, taking you through the ugly side of what these people would actually be like if they were real. Much of the success of the book comes from Moore's incredible storytelling skills. He knows pacing. He knows character development. He knows how to play with tension. He also understood the superhero mythos. He knew all its nooks and crannies, and wasn't afraid to drive a shovel into them and rip them apart. And rip he did. The characters we got were multidimensional, morally and politically diverse, and anything but boring. Moore's deconstruction also pivots on a key factor that is often taken for granted in regular superheroes.
Because this is where I'm a little concerned. I don't know if I would call it a deconstruction. I don't think it's that. It's like saying Game of Thrones is a deconstruction of fantasy because it's so influential and there's so many characters and yada yada yada. It's like, nah, not really. It's more adult. It's darker, just like Alan Moore. Yeah. But it's not.
What does Watchmen deconstruct?
That heroes aren't always good. I don't know. Like some other books have done that before.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Ozymandias turns out to be like a fucking psychopath.
Yeah, but
who makes like a psyop, so everyone would unite together.
Yeah, but that's the same with Batman and his contingency plans against everyone. Like he has plans for everyone that would kill them or try to kill them.
Yeah.
Did that happen before Watchmen? Because Watchmen is 1986.
Yeah.
When did Dark Knight Returns come out?
Same year.
So probably yeah. I don't know. I'm just saying it follows the same lines as normal comic books do, apart from the ending.
Yeah, I'm trying to think exactly what the deconstruction was, because usually when you're talking about deconstruction,
it's just
you're
gritty. It's just being gritty. It's like, well, that's not a deconstruction.
Well, yeah, I mean, we were talking about, let's say, Star Wars deconstruction with Episode 8. It's like you take the hero of Luke, who we know to be Luke Skywalker, and then we just tear him down. We turn him into something else. And it's all a lie.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait a second, that's not Luke. How did he get that way? It's like, oh, I got depressed, I ran away, I got scared. And, it's like, what? Why? Just because some dude broke your house and ran away with all your students and possibly killed them and you didn't do anything about it? Like,
No, Smud, it's because after 30 years, people change. Apart from Han Solo and Leia and all other people.
Right.
Yeah.
Every character stayed the same for 30 years, apart from Luke Skywalker, because people change. And you're like, right, okay. It seems like an ass pull, but carry on.
But I can't really say much. Like at the end, like it's kind of weird that like all heroes decide that like, Wade's plan is pretty good. Let's roll with that. But Rorschach is the only one who stays with his principles, pretty much. Everyone else is following along. Even like Dr. Manhattan decides to like, okay, I need to shut you down, Rorschach, forever, so no one will know what actually happened. Because it is a facade that they are doing in the end. But I would say that they are pretty much archetypes, as like what other comic books have presented before.
Yeah, they are.
I wonder what he's going to use to back it up.
Yeah, they are dark adult versions of, as you said, the Silver Age, of these heroes who are so godlike or whatever in the DC world, but you're giving them some depth. You're giving them some reasons why they aren't perfect. And you're like, oh, okay, great. We got it. Like the comedian is a bit of a psychopath, just a bit. Yeah, it's not great.
It's almost like Silver Age heroes, but in a more realistic world, like how they would actually turn out.
I would say, as realistic as you can imagine, a bunch of people in suits running around with crazy plots.
People with the underwear on the outside of their trousers.
And a omnipotent blue god just sort of like, humanity,
But then again, it's a bit like, to be honest with you, all those weird costumes it's not out of the blue. I mean, we've all seen pride parades. I mean, come on. Some of the stuff that they wear, they could be like 70s superheroes.
Well, I'm thinking of like One Punch Man did to manga or anime. I don't think it revolutionized anything, but because it was satirical take on all of these superpowered characters that are invincible, what would that really be like? And you try to humanize the hero trope and go, okay, here's the guy who just wanted to be a good guy, and he ended up becoming so good that he had no way to express his courage anymore because he's not scared of anything. It's kind of like, I wouldn't call that a deconstruction. I call that maybe an analysis or character analysis, but a satire, because there's much more to that story than just Saitama. So
yeah, Watchmen does that, like analysis, especially with the Rorschach chapter in the comic book. Like the psychiatrist is like analyzing like what Rorschach like made him into, like the character he is, and then like gradually by the end of the chapter he just like becomes like, oh god, this is hopeless. I can't make this guy good anymore. The emotional thing happened to him. It's just it cannot go away.
Yeah,
it can't get him back.
And we all secretly root for Rorschach, whether we like him or not, because he's pretty violent. But he is the guy. He is the guy who never stops.
Yeah. He is pretty much the person who is most towards justice itself. Everyone is compromising, and that's Rorschach's line at the end. That like, I'm not going to compromise. Never compromise.
Right.
That's pretty much why he died.
Yeah, and that's the hero character. And people were saying that was the joke that Alan Moore was trying to make, the right-winged style character.
Yeah, that's a joke itself. Like, Alan Moore doesn't understand his character, or he's purposely sarcastic because he hates comic books so much.
It's possible
what they had done to him.
The interview was a joke to him, and he was just making shit up. That's a possibility because Alan Moore doesn't give a shit.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think he's that dumb. I think in order to write that way, you have to know exactly what you're doing.
No way. Like, Watchmen is written so well. There's no way that man is just crazy.
Okay.
I think he's just a goofball.
I hope so.
Stories. How would the world change if a superpowered being really existed? Most comic book stories have the world, even major events, remain the same, even though the superhero's mere existence would have changed everything. What country would dare go to war with the United States if Superman really existed? Moore deals with that reality with Dr. Manhattan, the first and only superpowered being in the world, along with the political reality of the time, namely the escalating threat of nuclear war. Watchmen is a story of the 80s, and much of its success hinges on an understanding of the politics of that time. Fortunately, Moore is such a capable writer that it's pretty much all there in the book. Knowing the history helps appreciate the story more, but if you go in blind, Moore will guide you. That's why Watchmen is one of the pinnacles of comic book storytelling. So how did it ruin superhero comics?
I don't think it... I don't know. That's a weird take of why Watchmen's so good. I mean, you could just say he's a good writer, and his stories are compelling. That's any writer. The reason why it works as a comic book is because we've never seen this style of this size. Like, it's not just a few pages or a few it's not a mini series. It's a big, thick trade paperback. Yeah. So it's big. It has a well thought out story. Everything builds upon itself. All the characters are different takes we weren't expecting. There's sex. There's violence. There's all kinds of gory stuff going on, and plots, and good guys who are bad guys.
It's just like a day in the life of DC Comics.
Well, DC tries to be the virtuous. These are the good guys. These are the bad guys. Very clear.
I'm talking about behind the scenes stuff. I'm just.
Oh, really?
Alan Moore's just like, God, there's so much sex and violence there. I'm gonna write a comic book. I hate everybody.
Oh.
Leave me alone. I want to be a hobbit. But I do have a feeling he's going to start. The reason why Watchmen ruined it is because everyone tried to copy it and they weren't as good. And that's not Watchmen's fault.
That's not.
Yeah, that's probably his argument. Guy.
Okay, that makes more sense.
I have a feeling that's going to be it. It's like, no, that's not Watchmen that ruined everything. It's people who aren't good enough trying to copy something better. But
yeah,
but inspiration by itself is fine. But yeah.
You can't blame, like, he might not say it, but I'm just going to get this out of the way. You can't blame people trying to copy something. You can't blame the thing that they're copying. It's like, no, sorry, but I did the job well, and no one can do it like me.
Yeah.
Tough shit, really, isn't it?
Easy. Everybody tried to copy it. When you look at the modern superhero, what you see is a deconstructed mess nestled in the raisin-titty minds of lesser writers. Don't get me wrong, there are some good Watchmen-style clones out there, but most of them read like try-hard fanfiction. The reason so many of these stories suck is because they deconstruct active superheroes with ongoing books without ever bothering to reconstruct them. Moore originally intended to do this with established characters, but couldn't get DC Comics to let him. Instead, he created new characters based on established archetypes and then tore them apart. He could get away with leaving most of them deconstructed because he was telling a complete story. It had a beginning, middle, and an end. Every plot element didn't need answering, and every deconstructed part of the mythos didn't need rebuilding because Moore wasn't coming back to tell more story. These things could be left to the reader to address on their own. But with regular superheroes, this doesn't work because they're part of ongoing series. There's no end to their stories, so when these plot points don't get resolved, we end up with broken characters.
That's totally fine. You could have, Elseworlds in DC, and you could just tell your own thing. The same with all kinds of Batman stories and all kinds of Superman stories. The Red Sun's very well known.
The multiverse exists, so...
Oh yeah, but even then you don't have to go that far to explain it away. You just say this was a Elseworld, this was a What If from Marvel. It's the same idea. And if they're just paying him to do whatever, it's like, great. That's his run. He's done. Do we like it? We'll keep it.
Mhm.
Is it really good? Do we want to make it part of the mythos? Do we want to make it canon? They have all authority to do that. It's not a problem. That's not an issue. So,
or you can just do what they do in Marvel with Captain Marvel and just keep remaking it constantly because no one buys it.
oh really?
Yes.
I mean, she's only been rebooted 133 times in the last 6 months.
I thought it's.
Well, I'm sure the next one.
I thought it was just a new hairstyle every time, but okay. I can't tell anymore. She's so powerful.
Now that you mention it, you're right. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Well, they did the same hairstyle with Storm, and I thought that's a really cool hairstyle for Storm. She has that mohawk going from the future where it was all messed up, and I don't know how she stuck with it in the past, but cool, looks good. So who knows? They like the designs. They keep things visually, and she's like
they like their weird haircuts.
Yeah, she's like a queen of Africa or something like that. It's like, holy shit, really? She rules the continent? Like, okay. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Storm
it's not difficult
goddess.
to rule Africa.
Yeah.
It's not difficult to rule Africa. I should know as a British person.
As a
It's kind of
British
easy,
person.
right?
Just conquer the southern continent. Yeah, it's no problem.
Well, it's just easy. Just go over there with boom sticks and you've won.
Okay.
Me bring fire.
They get dragged down, broken open, and feasted upon in a postmodernist frenzy, but no one bothers to try to rebuild them. Instead, new writers come on and deconstruct the deconstruction. This is how you end up with a more...
Okay, you can't deconstruct a deconstruction the same way you can't satirize a satire. It doesn't make any sense. You can't inverse something that's already inversed. It doesn't. You're going to have this weird... Can you imagine trying to make fun of Monty Python? It just wouldn't work. It wouldn't be funny.
So try and make a parody of a Naked Gun.
That would be retarded on retarded. Like, it doesn't work. The Naked Gun works because it's based off a serious tone from, I don't know, police procedural or noir or whatever, and then giving it that sort of silly, over the top.
It's based on the Lee Marvin TV series. I can't remember what it is.
Well, either way, you can't go from silly to sillier. You can only go from serious to silly, and then parody that silliness.
The Naked Gun had its own TV show beforehand.
Yeah, called Files of the Police Squad. Yeah, ran for 6 episodes.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. Watching that now is just incredible. It's like, wow, this is crazy stuff.
Just so many jokes in it. It's just like, oh my god.
Yeah, like every scene is just over the top. Like, what the hell? The bananas, the throwing guns. It's just like, oh, this is where it came from. And they put that in some of them in the movie too. So
yeah, I mean, I always remember one of it where he's in a fight and he goes, he's got a gun, he's got a knife, he's got a signed Picasso, he's got herpes. He's like, ugh. He's just like, what is going on here? Oh, I miss those films. I miss films like those. Now we just have like 2 hours of references and fart gag.
Yeah, the problem I have with understanding...
After Leslie Nielsen died, the genre died.
Oh, yeah? He's the guy? You don't have him? It's gone? Okay.
He was the genre itself.
Yeah, it died years ago. It just...
I'm trying to understand his take of people are inspired by the deconstruction, so they deconstruct it. And I'm like, what? Give me an example of that. Like, where is there an example of someone looking at Watchmen and taking that apart and trying to rebuild it? I haven't seen that. I've seen good examples of Watchmen. I don't know if you guys have heard of The Authority, but that is also a comic book based off the DC Marvel or the DC characters and making them more adult. Like there's a Batman called the Midnighter who kills people, and there's a Superman called Apollo. And he's basically has all the powers of Superman, but they're gay lovers. That's one aspect of the relationship, but this is a very adult story of, I wouldn't say as crazy as the DC world where the Flash dies and everyone goes authoritarian, but It's because they're called the Authority. They pretty much blow people away, and they have all these powers and abilities and skills, the same as the DC Universe main heroes. So it's cool. I liked it. I haven't read most of it, but for what I read, I thought, it's pretty neat. So there is an audience for good stories that take things and make it more adult. And obviously, characters like Superman have been recycled throughout all of, like, Superman is the template for all the major superheroes with powers. Doesn't matter where you look. So it's going
to be honest with you, how many times do we have to go through evil Superman storylines?
Well, in the DC world, I mean just in comics as a whole. Like, he is the template for everything else. So if you don't see that, if you don't see that as a deconstruction or as a take of taking something which is working in comics and doing your own thing, then what is it? Is it new? No, it's not new. Can't be new. It's just Superman, just one part of Superman, and then humanizing him, or making him less of a human, or making him a bad guy, or what have you. There's all these flavors of Superman out there. So I don't call that deconstructions, though. So I really want to know what a deconstruction of a deconstruction is, and it should be easy if he knows it's there. So
heroes who think good and evil are relative. All these writers think that they're writing their own version of Watchmen, when all they're really doing is ruining the superhero mythos. Heroes who stand for nothing aren't heroes. Heroes who reflect all the flaws of society, but never overcome them, aren't heroes. Every character doesn't have to be a Boy Scout, but they should strive to be better than they were.
Okay, well, we have Ozymandias, who for his entire life, became this self-appointed fitness guru, and then started fighting crime, I think. So he's a self-made man. Everyone looked up to him and admired him for his skills and strength and virtues. And then all along, he was planning something. So he was doing just fine. He just had to he had an evil plot to enact. So he was doing just fine as a superhero. There was just more to him than that. That's great. It's like Sherlock Holmes having his master plan at the end of his career or something. It's like we didn't know that. Oh, you could.
Didn't he say that you can't deconstruct deconstruction? But just now, or was it just me?
Let's rewind that.
Okay.
Heroes who reflect all the flaws of society but never overcome them aren't heroes. Every character doesn't have to be a Boy Scout, but they should strive to be better than they were and have some sort of moral compass. But if you're caught up in tearing down the mythos, you never put those back in place. It then gets to the point where no one is surprised that a bunch of heroes would mind wipe villains who discover their secret identities. It becomes normal for heroes to fight each other rather than villains. People expect to see heroes be morally ambiguous and then follow some established moral code.
Not necessarily. Again, it depends on if you're talking about the classic superhero genre of the Silver Age, where the flying hero strong guy is going to save the day, and he's virtuous and moral and this and that, and doesn't expect praise or thanks or recompense. So that's the classic thing, but we don't really know those stories. Like, that's not been popular for a long time. We have the Punisher. We have all these Marvel characters who are morally ambiguous, morally gray. I think even Wolverine's like that half the time. So I'm sure they're still out there. I read all kinds of manga that not all the heroes are good. Not all the main characters are good or heroic. They do things for themselves. They're just people who happen to have skills or magic or whatever. So, nope. In fact, the better stories are usually the darker stories with revenge and sex and murder and plotting and corruption and all. Like, those are the really cool ones. Because it's not just, I am a virtuous hero who can eliminate my villain, and all I want is to build a cottage in the forest. And it's like, those are good stories too. Some of them are. Some of them are really dumb. But those, people read those. So, there's a story out there with all kinds of characters and plots. And they're virtuous and aren't virtuous and partially virtuous and crazy and vindictive, revenge seeking. There's all kinds. So I need examples. You know what he's talking about.
weirdest part of all of this is that so many of the characters have existed for decades and have deeply developed identities that just get thrown out for the sake of the writer pretending to be Alan Moore. What makes it worse is that the creative teams change so much that none of it is consistent.
Okay, but that's an argument for writing established characters for decades anyway. It has nothing to do with trying to be Alan Moore. Like if someone...
Yeah, so how has Watchmen ruined everything?
Yeah, exactly. Because...
How has Watchmen ruined that managing people are hiring new writers for existing props? Come on.
Yeah, like this is the argument I can understand if you are Frank Miller, and Frank Miller takes The Dark Knight Returns and really, really cranks it up. Like, whoa, that's really dark.
Yeah, makes it into an anti-Superman story.
Yeah, and then you have whoever take that story and say, I'm going to do this dark envisioning of the DC universe in movies. And like, that ruined DC movies. People's interpretation of Frank Miller and bad storytelling and bad, everything else, video making, ruined the DC universe movie world.
Oh, good Lord. Yes. So much of that. Like, Zack Snyder cites Frank Miller as an inspiration for his fucking Batman versus Superman storyline. But when you compare the story that's there, it's like absolute nothing like that.
Yeah.
They are fighting each other, that's it, okay? And that's it. Nothing further than that.
But the point of the comic is not just that fight. That's like one element of multiple parts of a story, what's happening in the city.
Batman Superman is at the end of the comic.
Yeah.
Right at the end.
There's
so much. Yeah. If you take The Dark Knight Returns as being Batman v Superman, you've missed 95% of the comic.
Right. There's so much going on with the main, was it the Mutants gang? And
the Mutants.
Yes. The mayor.
There's loads. You have the Sons of Batman, and you have the Joker coming back, and you're like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. And when he took that and tried to make it this weird sort of death match, and it just did not work. And it gets pulled out and dragged out for 2.5 hours or 3 hours, however long it is, and you're like, ugh, this is boring, slow. Yeah. No reason to happen. This is
in the comic book. They gradually like get you into it that like they are very different in like how they want to solve the problem. Because Batman sees it that like the Gotham needs to be saved somehow, and like Superman is not going to come in and like help the people because like the root of the problem is that like they just can't decide like what the hell is going on. There's so many things happening, and like I think the Soviets are launching a nuclear missile, and that's how Superman gets involved in the story.
Well, no, the reason Superman even gets told to take down Batman is because the US government is getting embarrassed by Batman.
Yeah,
it's like the US government's like, because Batman's literally solved Gotham's problems, and the president's like, he's not meant to solve the problems, we are, even though we can't. So we'll take all the glory that the problem's been solved, but we want rid of Batman. And that's why Superman fights Batman. Not because Lex Luthor's kidnapped his mom.
That sounds like an afternoon for Superman. It's like, someone captured my mom. I'll go get her.
Oh, Lex Luthor's captured my mom. Okay, I can easily solve this. I don't have to fight a man in a bat suit. Whereas in this version of like the DC, it's like Superman works for the government pretty much.
Yeah.
And the government's told him to take out Batman. It's like, oh right, okay.
See, easy.
It all builds up to it.
Understood. Very clear. No confusion. And it builds up to that.
Yeah, the major problem is if The Dark Knight Returns, the way that Frank Miller writes it is like, that there's been history between Batman and Superman. There's been 30 odd years of history between them or something. Whereas Zack Snyder's like, Superman's been around for like a year, and then he fights Batman who's been around for 20 years, and blah 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 blah, and you're just rushing. You are literally just rushing to make something, and it's not working. You wanted what Marvel had at the end of 10 years within a year, and it's just not possible.
Yeah. So we can argue.
Also, Gotham and Metropolis are right next to each other. How stupid is that?
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
That is the single stupidest thing that has ever existed, ever. Gotham is a taxi drive away from Metropolis.
Yeah, Gotham is just like the downtown area of Metropolis.
Yeah, how is there crime? Because obviously Superman lives in Metropolis now. How is there any crime anywhere? Zack Snyder's a fucking retard.
Yeah, so I would say the interpretation of Frank Miller is a big downplay to the DC movie universe. I don't know about the interpretation of Watchmen somehow caused comics to suck. Like I don't see it.
Yeah.
Unless he shows me examples and someone says, I was inspired by Alan Moore, and you're like, oh, okay. There we go. That's what I want to see.
Hey, wait, look at my rape scene that's inspired by the Killing Joke.
Oh,
that happened. Right.
As soon as a new guy starts, he either deconstructs the hero through his own lens, or sets about bringing the character back to basics by deconstructing a previous writer's ideas. The result is the insanity we see now, with gross politicking, half-ass philosophizing, and whatever the hell Brian Michael Bendis is doing. One of the best examples of this is DC Comics miniseries Identity Crisis.
Okay.
The writer Brad Meltzer has sued
Finally,
him
an example.
of elongated man killed. That's the mystery, but the story is that the heroes aren't so heroic, and neither are their family members. A lot of death happens in this book, but the one that hurts the most is the death of the Justice League, of finding out that the Justice League would mind-wipe villains who discovered their secret identities. Now, DC doesn't let Meltzer do this to Superman, Batman, or Wonder Woman, but the rest of the Prime JLA were all in on it. The story takes a drastic shift when the villain Dr. Light rapes Sudipni. The JLA come back to the Watchtower and find Dr. Light basically in the act, and mind-wipe him so much that they completely alter his personality. They then let him go, and he later becomes a comedic villain for the Teen Titans. They essentially lobotomized him and let their sidekicks beat him up. People might say, what's the problem? He's a rapist, do whatever you want to him. The problem is that these are supposed to be superheroes. They're supposed to hold themselves to a higher standard no matter what. Obviously, it's good storytelling to find out.
Okay, so what would you want him to do? Like lock him up, kill him, or mentally control his mind? Like these are all.
Let him rape more people. One's not enough. He needs to rape at least 6 people before we're allowed to mind wipe him.
Yeah, I mean, taking away someone's mind is kind of a serious big deal.
No offense, but if he gets mind wiped so much, he becomes a comedic villain for a bunch of teenagers. From being a fucking supervillain who rapes heroes, you know what? Net win.
Yeah.
To be honest. There's one less rapist in the world. God damn it! Oh, shame.
Yeah. Now he's become a pathetic guy fighting children and losing.
Yeah. Instead of being a threat who rapes other heroes, why is? If I was told that's what the heroes did, I'd be like, oh, okay, that's good.
Yeah, this is kind of the when people look at Marvel and Charles Xavier, it's like, okay, he can do so much with his mind, but what's his plan? Like, why does he have a school? You just flick his brain. You can just tell people what to do and they'll follow it. So, does he have a master plan?
He has a moral compass.
Exactly.
But like things are explained. But I'm sorry, but mind wiping a rapist into becoming almost a dribbling moron, not a bad thing. I don't know about you, but I'm not really for rapist rights, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So
I mean.
I can't.
This just makes it more funny that like his current position, just some guy's current position. But let's not talk about that.
Yes. Yeah. But what a weird like point to fight for. To be honest,
I would have to read the comic now that I know Identity Crisis. He mentioned, so I was like, all right, great. I could check it out. It has a rapist. I'm okay for Batman stories to have rapists because Batman came from the noir idea. So it's like, all right, yeah, you're going to have scummy, horrible people. And Batman breaks their legs and brings them to justice. In this case, they broke his legs, but they also broke his mind. It's like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Good enough for me. Anyway, here's Roan Harushin. Thanks for the 10. Wow. Exactly, Hawk. That's why the old animated universe worked when they got to Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, because these characters had history with each other and you knew and cared about what happens between them. Now, the animated is a little bit more digestible. I don't know if you guys have ever read Justice League, like the 90s comics. It's not that good. Like, obviously, I'm sure there are some stories which are good. I just haven't read enough, but they're kind of boring. They're kind of like, okay, this panel, there's Aquaman, and this panel, there's Cyborg, and then this panel, there's Batman. It just keeps churning like everything. Okay, yeah. Unless there's a focus, I don't really, like, it just bored the crap out of me. So I would rather read an actual detective comic or an actual Superman comic than the Justice. The Justice League is just not for me.
The problem with Justice League, and this is the problem with a lot of superhero groups, is once you start getting all these different superheroes together, you start wondering what can pose a threat. And there's only so many universe-ending threats they can do before it becomes a bit like, there's no stakes.
Yeah.
Like, no offense, but like, as much as I enjoy Batman being with other superheroes sort of like negate Batman's stuff a little bit, because it's a bit like, why are these people even a threat? Why is a bloke with white makeup a threat to anything when there's so many different superheroes out there that can solve all these problems?
Yeah, who could fly or bulletproof.
Yeah, I know. And also people will say, oh, but each superhero has their own city. Bullshit. It's like they can just go anywhere. The Flash can be there in 20 seconds. So Superman can be there even quicker. So
yeah. So this is the kind of argument people have. I've been reading it in the comments that, why not just kill the bad guy? It's like, yeah, they could. That would be simpler. Yeah. That's not the point of superhero stories, because you want the virtue or vice of the villains and heroes to come out.
Yeah.
And Batman who doesn't kill is a lot more interesting than Batman who just kills all the bad guys.
Yeah.
So using a punishment like mind control or rewriting their personality, to me, is horrific.
Yeah.
That a Total Recall sort of scenario where you can just reprogram a person and become whatever. In this case, they turn him into a loser.
But the thing is, his crime that he committed, the punishment doesn't seem like over the top or severe. Had it been like a villain who just robbed a bank but accidentally found out their identity, and then it was like they mind wiped him to become a drooling idiot, I'd be like, wow, okay, that's a bit, throw him in jail. You know what I mean? But
because usually they fight guys who are trying to take over the world, or they're aliens, they're trying to destroy the world, or it's like, all right, you got to deal with that in a different way. And Superman usually either eliminates that or throws him off to another galaxy or whatever. So this is where we get into this. Okay, what's the morally good thing to do when you win with the villain? So the writers have to know how to handle that. I'm not saying it's easy, because I don't know the best way to handle comic book endings, because I don't really like the genre. But it's tough. Like, you have to have a fine balance. And this is why we have writers who write characters like the Authority, who do just kill people. They just outright kill them, or torture them.
Yeah.
So,
but also another thing as well is, like, with heroes who kill their villains, you've got to keep creating new villains. And let's be honest, it's like, if you've got to keep creating a new villain each issue, you're not going to have a long issue, are you?
Well, this is the problem with Freak of the Month, or goofy Batman villain of the month in the 60s and 70s. So that sort of ran its course.
It's like one of my favorite book series to read is the Sharp novels by Bernard Cornwell. and he always, because he obviously had to write villains for each book, and he killed one of his villains off really early, and he always regrets it because he could never write another character like that first villain. They always felt like it was like, they were lesser, and so to solve that problem, he started writing books set earlier than when he killed people that killed the villain. But then he hated having to write prequels all the time because he could never move the story forward.
God damn.
Yeah, so he's a bit like he got annoyed with himself. So, but hey, that's what happened. So yeah, like you said, it's a fine balance between writing and stuff. Oh my God, Matthias is here. Things are gonna get worse.
Yeah, I am.
Also, hello, Matthias' family that we always hear in the background.
Just give me a moment. I will place this in push to talk.
Okay. Well.
Okay.
There are stories that are based off villains, and there's a manga series. I think it's an anime series as well called Moriarty the Patriot, and obviously it's from Sherlock Holmes mythos, and it takes a different spin, which is great because now we can have this publicly available IP, and anyone can write anything they want.
Now I am being pushed.
Yeah,
cool. Because villains are sometimes a lot more interesting than the heroes, especially when the heroes are all just goody two shoes and paladins and completely pure of heart. So we want characters with a little bit of an edge to them, with a dark history.
Yeah,
but
I would say that like the villain,
is...
like being like the character, is pretty much like why the story happens in the first place. Like if it wasn't for the villains, then like none of the conflict would happen in the first place.
The problem is, it's like, I wouldn't have a problem with Identity Crisis if it wasn't on the main continuity of the DC universe. Because it is a canon story. That's why you have a problem with it. It's not an elsewhere.
I see.
Okay, I'm still like I don't care whether it's not Elseworlds or main continuity, but mind wiping a rapist into being a non-rapist, ruling idiot villain for teenagers to fight, making him almost comedic. I'm not seeing the problem.
I understand, but the problem is not the crime, the criminal, the bubbling villain.
Yeah,
the problem is the attitude of the heroes, mind breaking the villain.
Yeah, I get that. I'm just saying, it's.
I know.
My point is this, Matthias. If he had chosen them mind wiping someone who had done such a lesser crime, just because he accidentally discovered some of their identities, then I could say, wow, yeah, that is over. Yeah, that's just destroying things for destroying it. You know what I mean? He just picked the wrong.
I get it. I get that. I don't think Identity Crisis. I didn't read it. It can be a good story, but what makes just some guy angry is that it is basically character assassinating the heroes. The heroes are not Watchmen.
Yeah, but he should have chose a better example. That's what I'm saying.
They don't have to be perfect though. Those heroes, like I think this is a perfectly reasonable limit to have them for them. But, if the story itself is like trash already, if like it's at risk that the identity of this person is gonna be revealed otherwise, but yes, like you have to work around somehow.
Mm-hmm. And also, I don't know why people are complaining about their identity being found out and mind wiping people, because we've literally just had everyone cheering for Tom Holland's Spider-Man. So he tried to mind wipe the entire cosmos. So I don't know. That's a good move.
He ended up mind wiping the entire universe.
Yeah, but it's like, okay. So why is Identity Crisis bad?
This was made 4 years ago. That's why. Otherwise, just some guy would be celebrating this.
How Watchmen saved comics.
But that's the problem, because it is a problem on No Way Home too. The mind wiping. It is not a moral thing. It's not something someone virtual would do. That's why Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman reject the idea of mind wiping.
Right, and in the dark world of the Justice Lords, Superman, even Red Sun, he is reprogramming people by giving them these weird lobotomies and putting machines in their brains so they turn into good citizens of the.
It's like we talk about the Justice League in the cartoon, the Justice League, where they go to the other world. It took me years to realize that the two little black dots on people's foreheads is where Superman gives them lobotomies.
Right.
It took me years to realize that. As a child, I never realized it. I just thought they were little tattoo things.
I get the point. Your point, guys. Like, yeah, it could be a good story. I don't know. I didn't read it, Identity Crisis, but the main problem just some guy is having is because that same deconstruction will be deconstructed by the next writer who will write Justice League.
Yeah.
So not only they deconstructed the Justice League in Identity Crisis, it will be discarded on the main timeline.
Oh shit, it's gonna get rebooted for the 20th time.
Mm-hmm.
What are we gonna do?
Well, that's DC for you.
They'll probably mind wipe each other to forget that we mind wipe people.
Yeah.
And then after they've mind wiped someone, just rape someone because rape's gritty and that makes things better.
Well,
so
yeah, it's like combining the problems of gods in the JLA to like minor misdemeanors or crimes that Batman deals with every day. It's the scale is not quite on par with why these heroes are here. So
yeah.
Anyway,
what would make them break that code? It's just that you shouldn't do it that often, and not with the whole damn team. But it gets worse. Batman comes back, walks in on the JLA mind wiping, no, let's call it what it is, mind raping Dr. Light, and our heroes, our Justice League, turn on Batman and do it to him so he can't tell anyone. Let that sink in for a...
Okay, now you guys understand it.
Okay, yeah, those people are pieces of shit.
See, it is Green Arrow, Green Lantern, Black Canary, and Blackhawk being character assassinated.
I see.
Like,
you mean all the colored characters? So you're saying heroes of color are the problem? We should get rid of all the colored heroes.
Yes.
I mean, almost all those guys are, I don't know, from European in the setting.
Heroes of color.
that now you guys get it, that those characters wouldn't act this way because they have a long time history of being virtuous. Now that they are mind breaking someone, and now they are turning on Batman because Batman discovered, they are doubling down on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but my issue is that, like, is this related to Watchmen? Did Watchmen inspire this to happen in the first place?
Yes. Don't you remember when Rorschach raped Dr. Manhattan and then
that's not the problem. The problem is not what the comic Watchmen. The problem is the writer trying to copy the Watchmen. That what you guys said, what he just some guy said himself.
Yeah, we know what the problem is, and
that's the problem. You guys, the thing is, you guys are not. The guys are having the same point as him, but somewhat your guys are not really understanding just some guy. You guys are having the same point, you and just some guy.
No. Listen, the reason why we're having these points is because Watchmen hasn't ruined anything. It's people trying to copy Watchmen. Now that's not Watchmen's fault. So this stuff happening in Identity Crisis has nothing to do with what Watchmen did.
I would have to look at the interviews by if there are any interviews by the writer, say, were you inspired by Watchmen? Can you explain that? If he says, yeah, kind of, but so was everyone inspired by Watchmen. So was everyone inspired by Sandman and all the other great comics out there. So specifically...
Yeah, but the problem is that the writer are not just trying to make a cheap copy of Watchmen, not seeing Watchmen and building up from that.
Yeah, no, but the thing is, Watchmen hasn't... Alright, so Watchmen's problem is that it's that good, it can't be copied. So why is Watchmen ruined comic?
I don't think Watchmen ruined it, the comic industry.
Okay, yeah, right, yeah, exactly. So that's what we're trying to say. Watchmen hasn't ruined the comic book industry. What's ruined the comic book industry is talentless hacks trying to copy Watchmen. That's two completely different things.
I would still have to read this comic to see how someone was inspired by Watchmen, like a certain scene, a certain quote by Alan.
Yeah.
Like it would have to be really direct, because you can't just say, "Oh, this is a deconstruction of Watchmen." It's like, really? Because they brainwashed?
Not a deconstruction of Watchmen, but a deconstruction of the mainline heroes.
That's fine. You can do that.
Yeah.
That's nothing to do with Watchmen then.
Yeah, but the problem is, instead of reconstructing again, because it is a main timeline, they deconstructed the arc in the next comic. And like Mark said, they will reboot it again for the 50 whatever time.
Right, yeah, but Matthias, how is that Watchmen's fault?
I agree. That's not Watchmen's fault. I agree that that's not.
But that's entirely like where we began. Like it's like Watchmen did this. Okay, can you give us example? Example happens. Is this really inspired by Watchmen? No, not at all.
Yeah, like we're saying.
Like what said, I trying to steal man just some guy's argument. But like said, I would need to see the articles of the author to see if he was actually inspired by Alan Moore's Watchmen.
But being inspired by him doesn't mean it's Watchmen's fault. Like
I know, I don't disagree on that. I just trying to be the devil's advocate. I try to steal man just some guy's argument.
Why? Okay, I understand. I mean, I wouldn't be devil's advocate this. I don't even think the devil would be advocate, you know. But I think what he's meant to say is what he really should title the video is why people trying to copy Watchmen is ruining the industry.
Possibly.
I would agree that would be a better title.
I want to see I could either do a few Google searches and find out people compare this to Watchmen. I highly doubt it. That's the case. So, anyway.
You can say before we play it, you can say that Watchmen popularizes the deconstruction.
No.
Yeah, I see. It's not a
The Dark
very
Knight
strong
Returns
argument.
literally came out the same year.
Yeah.
There has to be more stories like this. You deconstruct like something that's like genuinely good.
Yeah,
and virtuous.
there's a lot. Yeah. There's a lot. Watchmen's a good comic, and it did a lot, but
I think Zack Snyder did this. Zack Snyder like popularized that like all the stories that I like adapt is like coming from this source, but like no.
Yeah. Well,
fuck Zack Snyder, man.
Well, yeah.
Sucker Punch sucked, man. Hawk, come on, admit.
Yeah, I'm not denying it. There's very few things I watched that Zack Snyder's done that I went, oh, I'd watch that again.
No, I think I only watched 300. 300, the only movie from him that I like.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Anyway.
The Justice League mind rape Batman when he tries to stop them from doing.
They erase his memory. They don't mind rape him.
Yeah.
It kind of is.
It's like a lobotomy.
Still unethical.
Mind rape.
It's still unethical. But that's the thing. Would Green Lantern do that?
Was it Green Lantern or Zatanna? It looks like Zatanna in the background there.
Yeah, it is Green Lantern.
Green Lantern has mind control powers?
No, the room can erase the memory of the people, of the criminals, and in this case, Batman.
The room?
Why is Green Lantern telling her to let him go?
I thought Zatanna just Zatanna's magical. She can do all kinds of crazy stuff. So that's why I thought she was doing it. But
nothing in this scene makes sense then.
This is a thing with mind control. It's like, how far do you go and why? If it's justified, it's fine. It's not, then it has to be explained. Yada yada. It's not a big deal.
I'm just trying to read what's actually on the panel.
Yeah. So Batman's really angry. You're trying to mind control someone because he really wanted to break his legs, I guess. I don't know. Remember all the pain I gave you.
He's a rapist.
Yeah,
he needs to be tried in court.
Yeah. I want justice.
That is exactly what Batman would do.
My God, he's a rapist. You can't do that to the President of the United States of America. Don't worry, Joe. I've got
you, Frank Miller.
But yes, if you think about it, Batman, even if with the worst of the worst, he would not kill. He would still send the criminal to the prison.
Yeah. All right.
This to someone else. This isn't an Elseworld or What If story. This is the main universe, actual canon, 100% official. How do you look at any of these characters as heroes when they turn on the one person there who abided by a moral code? Another prime...
That's okay. The good guys can have lapses of judgment or have prior examples of doing things aside from the big Boy Scouts of the team. Like, Batman will never go against justice. He'll bend it, but he'll never go against it. Superman will do everything by the book. He'll kill people when they're like galactic threats or whatever. So, mind control? Oh no, you're turning a guy into not a rapist. How horrible, as opposed to killing them.
That's not the problem. The problem is the attitude of the heroes. That's the main key thing. It's not turning, it's the act that they did, even if it is a rapist.
But that's what I mean. Like, they're dealing with life and death issues. So it's either capture them and subdue them or kill them. There's nothing in between. When you have other options, like teleporting them off to another dimension, like there has to be more than one method of victory.
But the question is, should they do this?
That's an interesting story, element of a story to investigate and to explore. And if the reaction is Batman goes nuts, fine. Batman would do that. And they're stronger than Batman because they have freaking magical powers, or whatever. So that is one way of sweeping it under the rug, so they can move on with the story.
Although I don't think they wanted Batman to have his mind erased, because I think they are kind of shocked, and Green Lantern say let him go. But it happened.
Example is Marvel's Civil War. This happens because a member of the New Warriors accidentally destroys a town on camera while they're trying to save it. This leads to the government finally cracking down on mutants, causing the Avengers to split as Captain America and Iron Man take different sides. Never you mind that somehow a mutant tried to throw an asteroid at the planet didn't result in the government intervention, and neither did several mutants altering the timeline or an entire mutant country being wiped off the face of the planet. Oh no. The line must be drawn only when someone's powers go haywire while they're fighting. It's the accidents that matter, not the intentional destruction of life. Where Civil War breaks down is that you have people who have fought beside one another, people who have been friends for years, turning on each other because one's born with their powers and apparently needs to be kept in check. This began Marvel's now 10-year habit of having its heroes fight each other rather than villains. And
that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
But the problem is that it is not like a really well written.
Yeah, but that's I mean, you can do
It's the author's problem.
Yeah, you can do a good deconstruction. You can do a bad deconstruction. That's fine. That's fair. But you don't blame some other comic book because they could do it the best or something like that.
Yeah. Oh no, another comic from a different company did it better. So Marvel's done.
Yeah, that's not. And I don't even think Civil War is even related to Watchmen in any way. That's not even.
There's men in it.
It's an ongoing fight between them.
Yeah, you have.
Watchmen is pretty much like 1 minute.
Well, it did make Iron Man became a pseudo dictator, creating a concentration camp in the negative zone.
Sure, but we've had stories like that.
He became a Democrat. Then.
We've had the Marvel School of Gifted Youngsters stories have that with the government. They create concentration camps and the Murlocs.
That's the thing. I don't think Civil War is a bad story. Even though I watched Linkaro's video saying it is not that good because it characters assassinates Iron Man and Captain America, and believe it or not, Linkaro puts a well put arguments on his video.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's like, how has this got anything to do with Watchmen?
Yeah, that's the point. This has nothing. Like, I can't even look at a bunch of heroes fighting each other for one singular event translate to how Watchmen plot enacted or developed. It's just, take the same with the Infinity War in the 80s, or was it the 90s rather? It's just one singular event. They all come together, have a battle royale, not a battle royale, but a just massive fight against this one force. This happens all the time in comics. And heroes fight each other all the time. In the Batman world, in the Marvel world, this is nothing new. So,
the problem is the writers don't make it well.
Well, yeah, but it's a different story. It's a different scenario. I would have to go into every single motivation of every single character, and there's dozens and dozens. I'm like, okay, yeah, this guy is not Ozymandias. All right, next guy. Okay, this guy is not the Silk Spectre. All right, next. We just keep come on.
Yeah,
this is silly.
Ends up happening is that characters like Iron Man end up appearing anything but heroic. He basically sides with the government and wants mutants, and pretty much only mutants, to register with the government so that they can be tracked, controlled, and possibly used as weapons. Tony Stark has always been a little shady, but not like this.
Watchman was the 9/11 of comic books.
Opposite of heroic, and is made all the more bizarre because he's turning on his own teammates and friends. He even goes so far as to clone Thor, who was dead at the time, just to have more power on his side. These are our heroes, acting like villains just for the sake of telling a "wouldn't it be cool if Cat fought Iron Man" story.
What's wrong with that? Tell me. What is wrong with having heroes?
Well, it kind of characters assassinate Tony because he had a really good redemption arc with the Devil in the Bottle arc, but after that he becomes a really good person. Doing that on a snap in Civil War kind of destroys his arc.
Okay, but we have this happening.
I understand your argument that it's nothing wrong with doing heroes versus heroes, but what my argument is, it is wrong to destroy the redemption arc that Tony Stark had in his previous stories.
If it's explained that he has to do this,
he doesn't.
Then it's
but
fine.
He doesn't explain. He basically is evil for the sake of being evil.
Yeah, but Matthias, right? How is destroying Tony's redemption arc? How is it Watchman's fault?
Right now, I don't think Watchman is relevant.
Exactly.
I don't think Watchman is relevant for the argument he's doing.
Yeah, but this is the same.
So his argument is Watchmen ruined comics, but now Watchmen isn't relevant to the argument.
Right. Because we can take this idea of relationships with other characters the same way we can take a soap opera. In a soap opera, there's all this melodrama of who's sleeping with who and why, and people love this person the next and hate them the next day. It's slocky, stupid melodrama, but that's normal. Yeah. So whether it's a professional relationship or a physical one or a romantic one, to me, this is all drama. So, Tony decides to build an army of robots to help him fight off against people who go against the government. She's like, okay. Does it make sense?
Teia, in the chat, Big Bro Teyano, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, said that the video is not about Watchmen per se, but it is about the mother comics, not Watchmen.
Yeah.
Yes, but like the entire premise of this video is that Watchmen started this trend. That like writers got inspired and like they did their own Deconstruction stories.
Yeah.
And like so far, like the examples that he has given us has not proven that point at all.
Yeah. If you go back,
we have seen like hack writers. Okay, like they put together like heroic characters against each other. Yeah, that happened once, twice in Watchmen when they face Ozymandias, and like he's just a singular villain. Like eventually, like every hero character in Watchmen agree with him, except for Rorschach. He is the only one who stands by the principles that like this is injustice, and that's it. That's about it. Like, is this the origin of all Deconstruction stories in comic books? I am buying that shit.
And the thing is, I'm sorry, but Watchmen didn't start a genre of anything. And people being inspired by Watchmen doesn't mean it destroyed comics.
Yeah.
Hack writers.
I think it is a good idea to be inspired by Watchmen because it is actually a really good story, and you can build so many stories with that foundation. I know that's just me ranting.
Yeah,
but like I have seen like some Guy videos recently, and like he doesn't do his homework well. Okay, like if you want to like accuse these people that they have been like doing this because of Watchmen, cite some of the interviews. That like yes, I watched Watchmen, and I got the idea from that. This is just bullshit, entirely bullshit.
Yeah, so doing a satire, doing a deconstruction, those aren't genres of themselves. Those are just techniques the writer can do for the purpose of whatever they're trying to accomplish. So we say satire, like with The Naked Gun, it's taking the concept of the police procedural that's like dark and gritty and just doing the opposite and having fun and making it light and goofy. You could argue that's a genre, but I wouldn't say that because it doesn't really reflect an existing genre I can point to. Like, it has to be based off something that already exists.
Smart, but you know what? Like Watchmen inspired Naked Gun.
Oh yeah,
because like we have all these dark police stories. We gotta make it into a joke.
Yeah.
Leslie Nielsen is the key to all of this,
because
he's a funnier character than what we had before.
Oh yeah, well I don't mind them doing a darker story with the JLA. That's totally cool. Does it fit the right demographic? Probably not, because people, if you guys read a JLA, it's really like, oh yeah, a bunch of heroes running around doing heroic stuff. It's like, yeah, whatever. When you read Batman Detective Comics, it's like, holy shit, this is pretty dark.
He's the same guy? Oh my god.
Yeah. So he's pretty, there's a reason why he's so like, So for him to get pissed off about mind control, is like, yeah, that sounds about right.
But my thing is this: at the end of the day, you can't blame one comic book for there being a lot of hack writers.
I do agree the title is kind of flawed.
Like if you look at other
entirely flawed.
Yeah, the top 5 comics ever, like Bone, Mouse, The Dark Knight Returns, this one, and Sandman. You could say, oh yeah, these guys exist for a reason. And you could be, and everyone's inspired by them. But he wouldn't say, oh, you know what? I'm going to anthropomorphize the Saudi Arabian war conflict, where it's like, okay, interesting,
I just had like the most diabolical idea ever. The Shadow ruined Batman.
Oh, going backwards?
Because like after The Shadow, people have been writing these vigilante stories so much.
Funny enough, the Shadow the Shadow have a crossover comic with Batman.
Of course he does. He gotta lick his ass.
I know who ruined Batman. Zorro.
Zorro
ruined Batman.
No, but Batman was a rip-off of Shadow, so it's not even Zorro.
Shadow the Hedgehog. Yeah.
William Shakespeare ruined writing in general, to be honest. So
the ancient Greek dramas have ruined cinema.
Yeah. How the Odyssey ruined modern storytelling?
Adam and Eve ruined humanity.
Denzel Washington ruined Macbeth. Yeah, exactly.
How those ancient cave paintings ruined the comic book industry?
Damn you,
they
France!
clearly didn't have the good illustrators enough for this.
How Neanderthals ruined Star Wars.
How Neanderthals ruined the Homo sapiens.
Okay.
Anyway, we can continue.
We're almost done.
Yeah.
And because so many of the characters were dragged down but not rebuilt, other writers continued this policy,
How are they
running
dragged
them
down?
down further, creating more tension between mutants and other superpowered beings, resulting in Avengers versus X-Men. That story takes the leader of the X-Men.
See, this is what I mean. There's so many of these stories well before 2005. And I've seen covers of comics from the 60s of like Thor versus whatever. And it's just like, oh.
No, but those were even if they were bad, they were fun to read. I remember reading as a kid Superman versus Spider-Man.
Right. There's all kinds of these matchups. And it's like, this is normal comic stuff.
Wasn't there in the 70s, wasn't there a Marvel versus DC comic?
Well, there was.
I think it was 90s.
Yeah, that was
90s.
Oh, 90s.
Yeah, like the viewers could like select like who should win. And
yeah.
And
so somehow
Batman
like
Captain
Wolverine
America
won over Lobo, which is just like okay.
Also, Batman Captain America was a draw, and I'm like, okay, but Batman beat the Hulk. I'm like, what?
Yeah, that was the Amalgam Comics thing that lasted for about a year, I think. I can't remember how long.
Yeah, it was a special event.
Yeah, it was kind of goofy, and then they like slammed the two universes together. You had like Batman combined with Wolverine. It was like, what the?
Dark Saber or something like that.
It was weird. Yeah, before that, it was like Batman versus Captain America, and they have this weird conversation. Like, I could use all my skills to beat you, but I won't. You're like, what? What's going on?
What? But Captain America, you've got like super serum. You're easily stronger than a normal human being. Yeah, but Bruce Wayne somehow is equally as strong. You're like, no, he's not. What are you on about? You've got super serum.
Yeah, no,
Just
it
punch him.
It was a weird. Like, even what's her name? Wonder Woman gets the powers of Thor for a moment, then she puts it down. And you're like, I'm too powerful. It's like, what?
No, it's also what's that? Because Batman beats the Hulk by throwing a sleeping gas and then kicking the Hulk in the stomach. That makes him breathe.
Yeah, that was BS.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay. Anyway, so this was the guy who wrote this. Based it on Dr. Manhattan versus Rorschach.
Yeah. Anyway.
Cyclops, the ultimate Boy Scout, someone Superman would look up to, and turns him into a villain so...
Why don't you tell the story where he cheated on his wife, and his wife was like... Or the person he cheated on was a clone of his wife, or... Like, there's all these other crazy stories that you could say, oh, this was clearly the work of... Thomas Crick and John Watson and the discovery of the DNA molecules. Like, wait, what? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I don't think I think he's mainly talking about character assassination, not even about the stories itself.
Well, that's why we look at Cyclops as the Boy Scout. We say, well, wait a second, he cheated on his wife, and that doesn't make any sense. So this happens all the time.
So. Another thing, how?
Yeah, I want to do a mini rant. That's my problem with the big two is their constant inconsistency with their characters and their main line.
Yeah,
it's such it is annoying, more annoying. And on top of that, there is the multiverse that is even more annoying.
Yeah, my only thing is, it's like, okay. There's people getting character assassination. Okay, right. That's shitty. I don't like it myself. But how's this Watchman's fault?
Yeah, again, his premise is not matching his content.
Yeah.
Or the data, rather.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, we got 2 minutes left. We're almost done.
So unhinged in his desire to protect mutants that he does what mutant extremist Magneto would never do. Cyclops kills Charles Xavier. To put that in perspective, this would be like Jesus killing John the Baptist. John dunks him, and then Jesus pops up and cuts his throat. And again, there's no reconstruction of the heroes after this. Cyclops and his team get shadier and shadier until Cyclops is regarded as a worse terrorist than Magneto and an attempted genocidal maniac.
Sounds like a really shitty story.
Humans. The aftermath is dragging out in the books now, with this ongoing tension between Inhumans and mutants, and no real attempt to rebuild the heroic code that guided the X-Men or Avengers.
That was the time when Disney didn't have the X-Men because it was with Fox. So I don't know. That's the hypothesis. Marvel was trying to destroy the mutants and try to replace it with the Inhumans. That's why there's a lot of new characters that are Inhumans rather than mutants.
Right. So again, I'm going to ask, how is this Watchman's fault?
Yeah.
I would say this is going to be a very controversial episode. I can see a lot of comments.
Why? Because
because we have some guy facts here. I'm sorry, but no, like you can't look away from this. That if you claim that Watchmen ruined the comics, then prove it with examples.
You can't just say, well, comics after Watchmen came out have been bad. It's like, really? Okay. Comics before were also bad. We had bad comics.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but if everything he puts forward and my response is, so how is this Watchmen's fault? And no one can answer why it's Watchmen's fault. How is it Watchmen's fault?
The thing is, I think just some guy answers that it is not Watchman's fault in the beginning of the video, I think.
Then why is...
So why make the movie? Why make the video?
Why the first 2 to 3 minutes is about that?
So you make a video, title it "How Watchmen Ruined Comics," and then supposedly, if you're telling me this, says Watchmen didn't ruin comics. It's bad writers. Right, okay then.
It sounds a lot more like a clickbait video.
Yeah, so obviously he made clickbait video and is an absolute moron. So
it's more of a video if I have to pay rent. I need the internet to come together and watch my video.
Yeah. So I don't like.
I will say again, I don't disagree that the title is bad. I think the title is bad.
Right.
I tried.
But Matthias, I'm going to have to disagree with this because at this point, the argument is either A, he knows that Watchmen didn't ruin it, so he's made a disingenuous title, or B, he believes that every single comment after 1986 has been copied from Watchmen, and that's bad.
How popular was Watchmen, by the way, at the time?
I don't know.
Very popular.
I wasn't around in 1986.
Was it outselling the Batman Dark Knight Returns comic book?
I will see the numbers.
Okay.
All right. Anyway.
Yeah.
What else was popular at the time? That's also a good question as well.
Okay.
Events happened because people were trying to copy Watchmen.
No.
They were trying to bring realism into the superhero world, but ignored all the lessons of Watchmen outside of what if the heroes weren't so heroic. Watchmen showed us...
What a reach, dude. Come on.
Yeah, this is what I mean. So his actual point... Yeah, so his point is they just wanted to copy Watchmen. No, they didn't. Putting realism into superheroes isn't copying Watchmen. What?
You could make the same argument about Marvel. Marvel was more realistic than DC. It's like, well, it was more down to earth than DC.
Watchmen's fault. That's Watchmen's fault.
No, it's Marvel's fault that Watchmen exists, and then it's Watchmen's fault that Infinite Earths exists, or Infinite Crisis on Infinite Earths exists.
Okay, the first edition of Watchmen sold 34K and 100 units in the capital city.
the capital. What? If I speak at least
I'm forget because it is written in the side capital city orders. I don't understand why they use it this terminology.
His premise is flawed. Okay, the premise is flawed because the premise is flawed. All of his points are sort of disconnected, and we're sitting there going, all these are different stories. All these have good and bad parts of the story. They're all critical. You could always look at each element and go, yeah, this is good, this is bad. That, again, bad premise. So if you're trying to say the point of this video is, there's some bad stories out there in comics, you're like, yeah, thanks. They do this. Yeah, they've been doing that since the 60s. What's your point?
Yeah. Well, Watchmen did it and did it right.
The point was about modern comics, actually.
They had,
and I know,
villains becoming good guys, good guys becoming villains. This is very common, not only in comics but in stories as a whole. So I don't see a problem at all.
Yeah, but this just seems like he wanted to do a clickbaity title.
Well, I think he saw a pattern and he didn't understand the pattern or the pattern found in other stories like the pattern he recognized. And did not bother to connect the dots. And even if he did, he would still have this bizarre conspiracy of like, well, because of this, then this happened, and this happened, and this happened. It's like,
what about The Godfather, by the way? Like Michael Corleone. Like he starts out as a hero character, like he stands out for like good morals, and then like eventually turns into a villain, pretty much. Did that ruin Watchmen?
No, but they were inspired by Watchmen.
In the 70s. Yeah, I see.
Yep.
He's wrong.
Alan Moore is a wizard. So
he's wrong. If he made an argument about bad writing and had the pattern of making heroes villains, then okay, that's a pretty generic theory. So you could say many things with a very broad hypothesis. It's like, hey, people are naturally evil. And you're like, okay. And then we just list a bunch of random things people do that are evil. You're like, hey, maybe you're right. Maybe people are naturally evil. Who knows? What an interesting idea. As opposed to looking at one particular element and not referencing it. Look at this page 95 where Rorschach does this. This happens exactly in this comic. Like, oh, really? Interesting. That's interesting to know. But we didn't do that. So this is the problem with his whole video. It's not just the premise. It's everything connected to this theory. And he just showed random stories that he didn't like. You're like, I can do that with any comic book, even within like one page. So, anyway.
What heroes would be like if they were real. It's an amazing story, powerful in the truest sense of the word, but it isn't something to be copied with regular heroes because what we saw wasn't anything nice. These were terrible people.
What we saw wasn't anything nice. That's why it can't be copied. What the
Oh no, things aren't nice. I'm glad nothing bad happens in comic book.
Yeah, when Batman punches a guy.
Does he want like a sterile universe where like nobody does bad things? Like,
I'm glad.
Sorry, I didn't.
Batman punched a guy.
Batman gets.
What kind of story is that?
I don't know what he's saying actually.
Batman gets to go to his parents for Sunday dinner. Oh wait, no, they're dead. Spider-Man has a lovely relationship with his uncle. Oh wait, no, they're dead. But at least bad things don't happen. Oh, what the
fuck? He bought a cake for the orphans he just made. I was like, all right.
Yeah.
The problem is when you try to copy it on the mainline heroes, then things can get that. Like I said, characters can be assassinated and become something that they aren't.
Yeah, that's fine. That's not Watchman's fault that other people can't do it right. You could do it right. It's just the fact
all on the writer.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can make it work. You can make it work.
Right.
If a bearded, homeless, crazy man can write a good comic book about superheroes, being deconstructed, why can't other people? It's not just a once every generation that should be able to do this.
Yeah, I question whether he considers Batman an anti-hero at all, because he is, and he does bad things all the time. So that's not nice.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean everyone copies Batman? I don't think so. I think other people can throw punches.
Yeah.
You know? Okay.
Even
Who did
Kickman.
horrible things for selfish reasons. They were human. All too human. And that's not what a superhero should be.
Wait a second. How about Spider-Man? His entire premise is I wanted money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's
No,
wrong?
you can't be saying that they can't be human. What? What are you on about?
Is it copying Spider-Man every time a guy wants money who happens to be a superhero?
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
What's wrong with wanting money personally? Like, what's the big deal? You have superpowers. You're fighting a ring. You're a prize fighter or whatever. You want to get involved. Yeah, you want to get involved in outside worlds. You have your own problems. It's fine. What's wrong with
that? This seems very strange. A very strange video. I don't understand this video very much anymore. I can
rewatch this.
He's got a point.
Yeah, this minute, like the last minute, we could rewatch and you're like, what the hell is he talking about?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Represent the best of humanity. To be what people could be if they held this higher moral code.
Not necessarily.
They're not meant to be the bad cop or the rogue FBI agent.
Yes, you can make a comic about the bad cop. Why not?
Yeah.
The Punisher.
Okay.
He kills people.
Yeah, but he's talking, about the main heroes. The heroes that say they are heroes.
Matthias, sorry, I forgot.
Not the bad cops.
Yeah, well, Batman's not one of the main heroes. I forgot about that. Yeah, he's just a B-list hero. Yeah. Let's talk about Batman.
There's so many villains. There's so many hero villains in manga. It's just crazy. Like I love the revenge stories because they actively rape and kill and burn down villages. It's great.
Yeah, but it's also the fact that you can't do stories about the bad cop. Right, so in every Superman and Batman team up, like Superman's the good cop, Batman's the bad cop. So your point's just been proved. I disprove your point. I'm sorry, you can't say you can't do stories about the bad cop when you have the literal bad cop that is.
No. Batman. What he said you can't do stories about the bad cops. He said that the main heroes shouldn't be the bad cop.
Oh, sorry. So Batman is the good. You're literally telling me that Batman's the. Okay, right. Okay.
Well, how about Deadpool?
He kinda is.
Deadpool's a satire on the whole comic book industry as a whole. I mean, you can't do stories because he's not a hero. He is a hero. He's an anti-hero.
No, that's not the point. The point is not about making stories. He's talking about the main characters.
Not being.
Oh, sorry, I forgot that main characters aren't part of the story. Yes, you are correct, Matthias. Yes.
No. You are missing my point.
No, Matthias. What your point is you like this creator and you don't like the fact that he's actually made a really terrible
I
video.
kind of look.
You like
I agree.
Spider-Man.
I agree that the title is bad.
The title's bad. The whole video is bad, Matthias. You are literally creating his argument for him because he's not doing it.
Yeah, I try to be the devil's advocate.
No, you're just some guy apologist right now.
No, that's not. No. I'm being serious here. I'm actually being really serious. He's not making any argument. You're coming in and making the argument that you think he wants to do. When in reality, he's not. All he's saying is there's bad comic books that tried to do gritty realism and did it wrong, so it's Watchman's fault. And it's like, no, that's not Watchman's fault. And then he's now going on to you're now trying to say that he's not actually saying that. He's now saying you can't do stories about bad cop. And I'm like, well, there are bad cop stories. Then you've now said, oh no, he means about the main heroes. And I'm like, but there's still main heroes who are bad cops. And now you're then trying to change the goalposts again. It's like, no, you can't keep changing the goalposts for him. He's made a bad point. He's made a bad video. He's seen hack writers make gritty stuff. It's gone wrong, and he's gone, well, Watchmen was the first one, I think. So I'll just say that.
Well, you could make the argument that these pinnacle examples of good writing, and after that everything's going to be bad. you could say in general, okay. And people who are inspired by that try to do things like it. And that's great. I agree. People are inspired by great works of art. But to say it's directly as a result of this great piece of work that like the Sistine Chapel was amazing and everyone's trying to copy it and they all suck in comparison.
Yeah.
Of course they all suck in comparison. It's the Sistine Chapel. How do you top that? But it doesn't mean it's going to be bad.
Yeah, but it's like saying that, Romeo and Juliet ruined romance. And it's like, what?
It did. It honestly did.
Well, I know there should be more stories of teenagers killing themselves. I admit, I agree. But yeah, this is a really bad video, and he's making really bad points, and it's kind of blatant he's making really bad points. So,
all right, let's go.
He doesn't actually know what he's on about.
By the way, I looked it up. The Dark Knight Returns sold 3 times more than Watchmen. So,
Did it?
Yes, doesn't look too good for him.
All right.
Yeah.
So Frank Miller ruined comic books.
Oh no. All right.
Agent, or as a shady, actual politician. So in a very strange way, Watchmen reinvigorated the superhero genre, only to lead to its degradation because so many people only saw the brutal realness of the story and never bothered to think about one of the book's central questions. Who watches the Watchmen? If they're just like us, why should we trust them? Why should we look up to them?
Wait a second. Didn't DC do a story with Batman having contingency plans after? Like, this is like decades. I don't know when it came out.
Yeah, Justice League Doom. I know.
Yeah, so isn't that could be inspired? Like, hey, how do we take care of our policemen? Who polices the policemen? Oh, Batman has a plan for that. Okay, and it goes awry. Like,
he kind of have a plans for every member of the Justice League.
This is like, hey, no one paid attention to one of the themes of the story. It's like, what? What does that have to do with what you were just talking about?
Yeah. No one paid attention to this theme. Okay. It's like I didn't pay attention to the theme of The Last Jedi because I don't care about the themes.
Yeah, I don't like. This is, hey guys, this is the theme of the story that no one paid attention. It's like, where is this argument coming from? Did the people who wrote what was it? What was the one he wanted? He was comparing it to Identity Crisis.
Identity Crisis.
Yeah. Did they not? Was that the comparison you're making? That Batman freaks out? He's like, "What the hell are you doing? Leave him alone." Is that him not doing that?
So who watches the Watchmen? Well, in Identity Crisis, it was Batman.
Yeah.
And they mind wiped him. So
yeah. So
they got the theme of it.
Yeah. So it was mentioned. Is that all it takes? I don't know. What's this guy's criteria for who watches the Watchmen in Identity Crisis? I have no idea. They erased the guy who's pure justice. All right, great. That's that.
Yeah.
He's a man. They're superheroes. They have superpowers. You can't stop them.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
What more do you want?
It just seems very. This argument. He's not had an argument. There's no argument here.
No, he ended on the bizarre theme. I don't know why. It didn't match up with the rest of his presentation. You guys want to watch the last minute uninterrupted? Because this is where I just
Yeah.
Let's do it just for the hell of it.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Watchmen showed us what heroes would be like if they were real. It's an amazing story, powerful in the truest sense of the word, but it isn't something to be copied with regular heroes because what we saw wasn't anything nice. These were terrible people who did horrible things for selfish reasons. They were human, all too human, and that's not what a superhero should be. They're supposed to represent the best of humanity, to be what people could be if they held this higher moral code. They're not meant to be the bad cop, or the rogue FBI agent, or the shady, actual politician. So in a very strange way, Watchmen reinvigorated the superhero genre, only to lead to its degradation because so many people only saw the brutal realness of the story and never bothered to think about one of the book's central questions. Who watches the Watchmen? If they're just like us, why should we trust them? Why should we look up to them? Moore's answer was pretty clear, but it looks like many of the modern comic book writers weren't listening.
Okay, so he just had 1 minute of almost pure supposition of what he was trying to say and what he thought of Watchmen. And he tried to end it on the point of theme as if we didn't understand reading the comic, and none of these writers did either.
No, not you. The writers didn't
Yeah,
understand.
but that's nonsense. He's making another supposition, guessing the mind of the writers, saying, hey, they didn't pay attention. They didn't understand the major theme. Why is a major theme necessary?
He assumes so much.
Yeah, why does a major theme or a minor theme of the watch? I don't even think it's a major theme. I think it's a minor theme of that message have to be part of any story that involves mind raping a guy like Identity Crisis does. Why? Why is that important? This is pure speculation on his back. I don't know where he went with this, and I'm lost.
And again, like, we have to keep it in mind that, like, Alan Moore thinks that Ozymandias' idea was the solution for Watchmen as, like, the good ending to it.
Yeah, and to say
like,
that...
Dr. Manhattan shutting up Rorschach to the point that he fucking kills him.
Yeah.
Was the solution to the problem.
Right. And
because he was just the funniest joke character. Like, come on, please.
And to have pre-established characters who are bad cops or anti-heroes like Batman, who's super popular, and going, oh, you made him too gritty. It's like, not in the comic you referenced. In the Identity Crisis, he was the guy trying to stop the mind wipe. So what's the problem? Is it because those heroes were the bad guys and they were worse than Batman and they were doing something outside of character? Let's look at that. How are they outside of character? Then we can look at all the characters who did that. Would Zatanna do it? Totally. She has the capability. She has the drive. She wants to be strong. He wants to be useful, blah, blah, blah. How about Green Arrow? Probably. He's a realist. He's practical. How about Hawkman? Yeah. Yep. He would totally do it. He's a superior being or whatever. He's a Hawkman. Comes from a lineage of reincarnated kings. Yes, he would do it. Black Canary? I don't know. Maybe. Don't know her well enough. Don't know her character enough in that story to argue whether or not she would go along with that. Now, the question is, would these guys kill that guy? They all have that capacity. Everyone on the JLA has the capacity to kill. They all do, but they don't. But if they could lobotomize someone, they could kill. Mm-hmm. So what is worse, killing a guy or taking away his mind and having him become a better member of society? Both are pretty bad solutions. But what do you do? And if you introduce that element of questioning, and I don't know how the story was told, if you have the reader go, that makes me think. So it makes you question what's going on. And so long as that question doesn't interfere with the logic of the character, meaning how they operate or how they operate in the past, or if there is a scene where they're questioning themselves, then you're like, okay, great. This is sufficient enough for me to believe this character's motivations. Then it's fine. You may not like the choice. You may not like like if Batman decides to kill, again, you might not like the choice, but if it's explained why and the reasons are sufficient, it's okay. I know that it comes as a shock to some people because Batman should never kill. Then he's no longer Batman. I don't know. If it's explained well and he comes the simple logic that I can't keep fighting the Joker because the Joker's going to eventually keep killing people. It's easier for me to kill him and end my career and go vacation in the Bahamas forever or whatever. You could make that argument. You could write a story that way. And it could be canon and they could decanonize it and they could reinvent Batman and throw him in another dimension. I don't care. It's DC, one of the most creative formats, comics. No, it's horrible. It's garbage. Because of another comic that did it better.
Watchmen.
Yeah.
Because Watchmen did it better, and so that's it. It's game over for comics now.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Always do mediocre work. Never stand out.
All right. Let's see what we got here. Watchmen the anime from Cyberfrog. Here we go.
Is this... yeah.
I'm trying to understand what's going on.
Oh my god.
The complete...
Bones. Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of girls. Very colorful hair there. The complete...
I would say not enough girls.
Oh. Is that a word? John Crete Revolutio? John Crete. I can't even pronounce these words. Anyway.
It sounds pretty anime.
Yeah, it's some Japanese writer. Oh, here's a great Greek word I'm going to use. No one ever uses in normal conversation. And we have some black dude with blonde hair as Spider-Man.
Nah, wait, so you're saying in this universe, Spider-Man's black? White? Hold on, so let me get this straight. Do you still know an Iron Man? You mean the Tungsten Gentleman? What about Doctor Strange? You're talking about Mr. Weird? Do you have an Aunt May? We got Mima June, the Green Goblin. I got the Turquoise Troll. Are you still talking to Mary Jane? Her name's Happy though. You know Captain America? You mean Lieutenant Germany? The Winter Soldier? The Summer Marine? Black Panther? We got the White Puma. Not now. So you're telling me you ain't got the Guardians of the Galaxy? Nah, we got the Supervisors of the Solar System. What about Ant-Man? Termite Buddy. Thanos? Kratos? Do you even have the Avengers? We got the Retaliators. Oh, no, I had to know. Why, Spike Lee? Why? His name is Stan Lee.
The fuck?
Wow, that was amazing. I know you guys didn't hear that, but oh boy.
What?
Spike Lee.
Yeah, this meme is pretty good.
All right. Holy hell. Oh. All right. Well, that was just some guy. Strange take, strange title, bad ending.
Apparently we were strawmanning his points.
Really? Guys, do we have to play? Do you have to replay the last minute of that?
Should we replay the entire video on
Yeah. Let's go over the entire video where he blames where the title of the video is he's blaming Watchmen for the comic for how Watchmen ruined comics. Doesn't explain that beyond Watchmen did it well. How are we strawmanning his what? Sorry, what? How? What?
Yeah.
No. Oh, is it because he's actually trying to make an argument, but the fact that it isn't Watchmen? So the first point
was he's trying to make is that it is character assassination. They are trying to bring.
So what it is character assassination is really bad for the comic book industry. Cool, thanks. Nothing to do with Watchmen. Absolutely zero to do with Watchmen.
Yeah, he could have gone a little more broader and say, as a result of Watchmen, I believe that this inspired writers who aren't as good as Alan Moore to take his ideas and create plots and characters that are already established and switch them up, missing the point of what Watchmen is. And then he just threw that theme at the end, like, oh, it's really about, how do you police the policeman? And you're like, what? What was that in your presentation?
Yeah. Or maybe he should have just said, bad writers are ruining comics.
Right. That would have been too broad.
And just, but it wouldn't be too broad because it'd just be saying these are bad writers. Bad writers who try and copy greats such as Watchmen are making, comics bad or something like that.
Yeah.
Big Bro Tejano, you literally said this point was, you should never strive to do something good. Yes, that is strawmanning. No, that was a sarcastic comment, or is like the sum up to his message right now. Yeah. Because what Watchmen essentially did, yes, we have established that it was not the first deconstruction. That's fine. But the premise is that supposedly after Watchmen, these stories happened. But supposedly they were inspired in some way by Watchmen, so they did that kind of story. But we don't really see the connection to it. And Mateus was trying to still help out this guy's point.
Yeah,
but by the end, he admits to it.
I was trying to steal Manny the argument.
Anyway, guys, that was enough for me. I thought it was going to be a better video. Unfortunately, it was not, because we were on a roll. Outside of Yahtzee's video, which was just fun to take apart. The other past two videos have been fun. So, yeah, sadly.
Just Some Guy is a mixed bag. Sometimes he has really good videos, but this was one that wasn't quite there.
No. Anyway, the hypothesis did not match the conclusion. The body was all over the place. Try harder, sir. Please. Clearer actually would be better. Just a clear argument with clear points of evidence. That'd be fantastic. Anyway, thanks, guys. Have yourself a great evening. Good weekend. I'll talk to you real soon.